Okay, maybe Darrell can help us with this question that we're trying to figure out. Because here's a question I've got, and this is about Alabama. So, because of our loss to Auburn, and because we got dominated by Missouri last night, um, are we basically out of the running for the 1 seed? Like,
Oh, no.
whether we beat Kentucky or lose Kentucky?
Oh, no. You're firmly in the 1 seed conversation. I would say as of right now, you all still are at 1 seed because the amount of quad 1 wins you got. If you look at they did a pre-selection show. They do it a few times a year just to see, hey, if the committee were to rank them now, how would it be? And you all were a 1 seed. I think you were the number 2 overall seed in the tournament. And they went to your quad 1 wins. So you've just got so many of them built up. You could probably lose another game or two, as crazy as it is, and still be a 1 seed. Just the gap between you all and Houston or Iowa State is so massive in that department. The only way I could see y'all being passed up is if Tennessee were to jump y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the 2 losses takes Alabama out of the running for the number 1 overall seed.
Especially the loss to Auburn at home.
Yeah, but being a 1 seed, yeah, we're still fine. If we lose like 2 more games, we'll probably fall to the 2 line, but we're still easily a 1 seed right now. I agree, because like you said, Darrell, we got so many great wins. It's unbelievable. I mean, our resume is insane.
Oh yeah,
right. And if Duke loses a game, I think they're more likely to fall out of the 1 seed than if Alabama were to lose a game or two. That's just how weak the ACC is. I mean, I don't know their schedule, but they don't play Clemson or Louisville, and that's all I need to know, that they're playing mostly quad 2 or quad 3 games. Maybe if they're playing.
Only quad 1 game is at UNC.
That's still a quad 1?
Well, because top 75 on the road.
Yeah, how are they top 75? They're 14 and 15 and 11?
Carolina's net ranking is 47.
Well, so far, let's look at the rest of the schedule. So this Saturday we have Kentucky, and next Tuesday and next Saturday.
My Lord, all 5 are ranked.
Yeah, that's brutal. You play 3 1 seeds potentially.
What does Alabama have to go to get a 1 seed at worst?
I'd say 2 and 3, maybe even 1 and 4, depending on who that one is. Because Auburn is viewed so highly by everyone.
Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn are just is ridiculous 3-game stretch. That is ridiculous.
Oof.
I think you'll beat Kentucky and Mississippi State. And then if you go 0 and 3, I guess the question is, what's Tennessee's schedule if you could pull Tennessee up? Because that's the one that you all are really competing against.
Here we go. Oh, they are unbeaten in non-conference.
Yeah, they didn't lose a single non-conference game, which is insane.
They have LSU. That's an easier game. And South Carolina. So they got a better path.
Okay, so if Alabama goes 2 and 3, then they should be the final 1 seed, even if Tennessee beats them.
Tennessee would probably have to go 4 and 1 to have any chance.
Right. I mean, it's possible, but just in the SEC, the brutality of every single game just kind of adds up.
Tennessee has to beat Alabama in that 4 and 1 stretch to have a shot too.
Oh yes,
they because the head to head would help, especially if Alabama does go like 2 and 3.
Right, and I would also have to say Tennessee has to match what Alabama does in the SEC tournament as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be close, but does it really matter between a 16 and 1 versus a 15 and 2? Because I know 15s have beaten 2 more than 16s have beaten 1s, but the gap this year between like the top 5 teams in the country and everyone else is so gargantuan that I don't think it's really possible for Alabama to lose until at least the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, unless it's a really pesky second round team, a very pesky team. And Bama has a bad game, especially on defense. But I would agree, though. I think they should be Sweet 16. I get worried about their D, though. Their defense is sketchy sometimes, and that's the thing. They just have to score a whole lot of points And if they do that, they're usually good to go.
Right, but
98% of America.
oh yeah, absolutely. They got one of the best, if not the best, offense in the country. But look at the teams in the 7 range. You're playing Clemson. Like the only thing that would scare me is if I'm playing a 7th seed, that's either Clemson or Louisville, and it's just the ACC is just kind of undervalued. Not by a ton, but where all those teams are just slightly better than what everybody expects, and they're like 5 seeds, and they get on a hunt night. And the more I'm talking about this, I think Louisville could be that 7th seed because I don't know if you all watch them play, but they shoot like 45 threes a game. It's insane what they do. And if they hit like 21 of those threes, they'll just shoot you all. They'll shoot anybody out of the gym. So that's the only team I think that could potentially beat Alabama or anybody just because of the style of play. But Alabama's just a different level this year. You guys have a heck of a team. And I was going to ask you all this earlier. Do you think it's possible to be both great at football and great at basketball at the same time?
Oh, I think Alabama can be kind of like how Florida was when they had Billy Donovan, where some people were asking, can they continue what Lon Kruger made Florida? And fortunately, Billy Donovan did. That's what he did.
I think the unfortunate thing is for me is because of the fact, like, you see Saban gone, and now Alabama basketball is like at the pinnacle of college basketball, and Alabama football has slipped. But I mean, if Saban had a coach, a few more years, like Nate Oates had gotten to Bama earlier, then I think that you would have seen that, in sequence where both were good at the same time, like elite. It can be done. You just don't see it at both schools at the same time very frequently. Like Jackson said, the Florida example is like the best, but then you only saw it for a few years because obviously Urban left, and then Donovan left. So it didn't stay, but I mean, it can be done. It's just for both schools to be elite at the same time. They have to have the great coaches at the same time and great, players at the same time. And it just doesn't line up that much. But with how much money Alabama puts into their athletics, I think that they have the capability very easily to be good in both at the same time. It's just whether they are is if they have the right coaches at the right time. And they have Nate Oates right now. DeBoer, we'll see if he can get it back.
Right. And the only weakness that I think Alabama has, and why I don't put them in that quite same tier as Auburn or Tennessee, is just because I've seen those teams win in different ways. Whereas I think Florida and Alabama have to outscore whoever they play. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you can do that 6 consecutive games when 4 or 5 of those games are going to be against decent competition. Because like all it takes is for somebody to win 100-97 and you're out of it. Where I don't know, I haven't seen Alabama kind of slow down the tempo this year in any game and win 70-65. When I see Alabama play, from the few games I've seen them play, because there's too much college basketball going on to keep track of everybody, they win like 93-87. And I just think in the NCAA tournament, you have to win through a variety of ways. So that's my one main concern with Alabama going into it. But what are your thoughts?
I agree 100% because, I mean, obviously the cliche defense wins championships. I mean, that's one thing. You hear that all the time. But, yeah, if Alabama has a game where in the tournament that they only hit 6 threes, 6 of 35, they just do not have the greatest shooting game, they're probably losing. Because, like you said, about winning in a variety of ways, if you're having a not so great offensive game, if your team can grind it out and defend at a high level and just snuff out the other team, then you can, even though you're a team that's capable of putting up 90, still win that proverbial 64-62 game. Alabama can't do that. They can't. They just can't. And that's why you saw them lose to Auburn. It was a high-scoring affair, and they fell short. Missouri, high-scoring affair, fell short. That's the problem, because in both games, I didn't even think they were that bad on offense. Against Auburn, they really struggled on from the three, but they still put up a lot of points. But yeah, I don't. I mean, could they win it all? Absolutely. I wouldn't bet on it. I would not bet on it, because that defense is not good enough. It wasn't good enough last year. I mean, they shouldn't have beat North Carolina. I mean, if you remember that game, I mean, Baycott missed the dunk. Withers took that stupid three at the top of the key. I mean, Carolina really should have won that game last year. And I mean, and I'm not saying that because, I am a fan of UNC basketball. Particularly, I do like the football team too, but I love Carolina basketball. I was rooting for both. I mean, didn't really care. I mean, I was kind of in a way like Alabama, like they haven't been good in basketball, forever. So I was happy for them too, happy for Alabama, but Carolina really should have won. And that's because, again, Bama can't defend. Carolina just gave it away. But you didn't see Alabama go all the way. I mean, like I said, they got talent. They're dangerous, but they don't defend.
Agreed.
You can't win, I don't think, if you don't at least defend at a decent level.
I don't want to see Alabama be like where they were in 2021 and 2023, where they were doing well in the regular season, but did just enough to make it to the Sweet 16. Because I want to see another Final Four, potentially a national title of college basketball. That would be sweet. We gotta have something like that in Tuscaloosa. But,
well, Jackson, unfortunately, and we'll learn this throughout the college football as well, it really just depends on the draw you get. Because depending on the matchups and stuff like that, you can look at it and the committee can really hurt you all and say, well, you get a team that doesn't match you stylistically and you're doomed. Or you can get teams that match you stylistically and you're just the best version of that team and you have a clear path to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Or it depends if you have some team like FDU beat the 1 seed, Purdue, and then your path opens up. So there's just so many factors. It's so hard to determine even right now until the bracket comes down that we know who's likely to make it to the Final Four to the national championship game.
I always look at it as like when the 2013 Indiana year with Tom Crean, with Zeller, Victor Oladipo, Yogi Ferrell, etc., where they played Syracuse in the Sweet 16. And that was probably Syracuse's last good team. And I mean really good team. Yeah, they made the tournament, beat Duke a few times after that. But that 2013 was probably Boeheim's last really good year at Syracuse. And that zone just beat the crap out of Tom Crean. Couldn't figure it out. Couldn't figure out the 2-3 zone. And Indiana dominated all year. They won the Big Ten. They beat that Michigan team with Trey Burke. They were very good. And they freaking lost to Syracuse in the Sweet 16 because they couldn't figure out the zone. If they don't play Syracuse, they probably go to the Final Four at least. A team is insanely good.
Tom Crean
great Indiana in history. Because you can't count Jackson Davis. I mean, he was a one-man team. And you can't count 2016 really either. Even though they won the Big Ten, they weren't dangerous. I mean, but I mean, that season, I mean, that's the perfect example of a team that should have gone all the way, or at least the Final Four, but it got tripped up because of who they had to play. So I agree. I mean, if Alabama plays a team that's a grinded out, like just tough defensive team, yeah, I mean, they could lose. Because if that team forces Alabama to like go 5 of 40 from three, I mean, they could lose, 70, 60, 62 if they have just a poor offensive game.
Yeah, have you all played Texas A&M this year?
I don't think so.
Because they're the best.
We did. That's right. My bad.
How'd that game go? What was the score of that game? Because they're that physical, grind you, foul you, feels like every possession type of team. Good offensive rebounding. Sorry, not good. Elite offensive rebounding. Slow it down.
94-88.
That's crazy. You all paced them up that much. If you look at their schedule, the amount of games, I would almost bet you 88 is the most amount of points Texas A&M has scored all year.
Let's look at them, shall we? Huh.
Well, he scored 97 against Lamar. That doesn't count. That's nobody. 92 against Abilene. But in SEC play, yep. They haven't scored that much in any other game.
Your guarantee was correct, Darrell.
Well,
I forgot they lost to Central Florida to start off the year.
Yeah, and that's the only reason like UCF was even on the bubble for a while. But I mean that was the first game of the season. UCF is clearly not as good right now than Texas A&M. If they replayed right now, A&M would win.
well, Jeffrey, all this tells me is we need to expand March Madness to 76 teams. That way,
So Indiana and North Carolina can guarantee to get in. Yeah.
Exactly. We don't have enough inclusion.
Let's take Mike Woodson's job by putting Indiana in the tournament.
Hey, you never know. He could make this round of 32.
Oh man.
My Lord.
Okay, so let's take a look at the other top 4 teams for a little bit. See where they're. Well, there's Florida. We're going to be playing them before we have another game with.
That's a monster game, dude.
Oh god.
That'll be a track meet. That'll just be like the Missouri game, where it's just up and down, up and down, up and down, threes all around. I mean, I remember when Kentucky played them, it was 102-97, I think the final score was.
Insane game.
Yeah, I know. But so I'm kind of worried about Alabama because I've seen Alabama been run on before. And I think Florida's the best team in just pushing the pace in the country.
There we go.
Yeah, I think Alabama might rank number 1 in pace. I could be wrong, but if Alabama does, then Florida's number 2.
I mean, I've seen you all got ran out of the gym by Missouri. And I've seen you get run out of the gym kind of by Auburn. I felt like the Auburn game, their pace was a little bit too much for you all. Marcus Spears felt a little bit out of control during that game. So I'm not a Kim Palm all the way type again. It's a good reference point to start a conversation with and to be smarter. But, you know, I think any rankings are flawed. I mean, you just told me the net has them 40, North Carolina 47.
So I don't like the net. I don't. I think the net is a very flawed system. It doesn't take into account a lot of the times where teams end up. A lot of times if you're ranked high in the net when it's initially released, and it's very hard to fall. You know what I'm saying? So like North Carolina, because, you know, they were expected to be good, their net when it first came out, they were really high in it. So like, even though they've sucked, they haven't fallen, you know, to where they're probably at, you know, as a team. They're probably, you know, like the 65th or 70th best team in college basketball. They're still ranked in the 40s.
Right. I'm curious where Kansas would be at right now, because I'm almost like, if Kansas plays like a McNeese type team, or if they're the 4 seed in your all's region and you're the 1, I mean, that's a game I just pencil Alabama winning. Not even a doubt about it. But I believe the metrics show Kansas is still as a decent basketball team.
Kansas is 22nd in the net.
Yeah, they're not
playing right now. They are not the 22nd best team right now. The way they're playing,
I don't even think
they shouldn't even be anywhere near 26, let alone 25, or any of the top 25 rankings for that matter. They should be thrown out.
Yeah, Kansas to me is just a team that's completely fallen apart at the seams, and
that's a dumpster fire.
Right, I'm like, if they face a McNeese or Samford, you know, one of these capable 12 or 13 seeds that can win again, I'm going to pencil. That's a no-doubter, in my opinion, that they're going to win. Samford almost beat them last year, and I think Kansas's team last year is better than this year's Kansas's team.
Do we think North
Kansas should have lost to them last year? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a horrible call.
Yeah, dude, that game irritated me. I think I was live for that game. I was so irritated, man. I was like, man, that ending that game was garbage. Absolute garbage.
Oh man. So I'm looking at the rest of Duke's
3
schedule.
games they should easily win. At Miami is trash. Florida State's not good. Wade, I mean, at Duke, so. And then really it's Illinois and at UNC. If they beat Illinois, then, you know, they're probably most likely good to go for a 1 seed.
Yeah, but
if they lose at Carolina, close. They might still give it to them. I don't know. Maybe.
Don't you think if they lose any of these games, they have to win the ACC tournament to be a 1 seed, though?
Oh, yeah.
Probably, I would say that. I mean, Duke's just such a brand that, you know, I do think that kind of like how Kansas is being still ranked a lot higher than they are. I mean, like I would put Kansas as an 8 seed or a 9 seed right now, and they're still like a 6 seed. Well, how are they a 6 seed? I mean, they're getting destroyed, and the net's supposed to be when you get blown out, then your metrics go down. Kansas went down 1 in the net for losing to BYU by 30. Okay? But when Indiana loses by 30 to Illinois, they fall 10 in the net. Explain that.
Oh.
Explain that. I mean, you talking about brand bias. That's some brand bias. Kansas lost by 30 to BYU and fell 1 spot in the net. 1. Again, Kansas is not a 6 seed. Kansas is like a 9 or an 8 right now. And I actually said that on Twitter, and I had bracketologists, you know, not the main ones, but, you know, some of the Twitter ones that are on there, they agree with me. They said I was right because that's garbage. I mean, that is absolute garbage.
Yeah, I think a good matchup we should see in the first round, even if you wanted to play the cynical route, is Kansas UConn.
I want Kansas UConn. I would love to see Kansas UConn.
We
8-9.
need it.
Make that an 8-9 game.
Right, because UConn is doing terrible for their standards, and they have an atrocious loss to Seton Hall.
Dude, Seton Hall, man. I feel bad for Shaheen Holloway because he lost his whole team.
I don't, because he beat my team. I have no sympathy for that, man.
Well, I get it, but I'm just saying though that last year they were pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they won the NIT, and like he lost his entire team to the portal. Kadari Richmond went to St. John's. I don't remember the other guy's name, but the other really good player. He lost like top 4 or 5 leading scorers to other teams, and now that's why they're bad. It's just it's nothing he can do.
There we go. So here's the game that we got pulled up right in front of us that's really keeping Alabama in the 1 seed conversation is this victory over Houston on Thanksgiving week. That was a 85-80 overtime victory. And Iowa State, Texas Tech are scary.
I will say, even though that game's a perfect example of a game that should still, you know, like it matters because Houston's great, Alabama's been great all year, so but